On this episode of Narcissist Apocalypse, we talk with an abuse survivor named Ripley. And Ripley was in a physically abusive relationship with a victim-playing narcissist. It's a story of guilt, promises of change, using children as pawns, and smear campaigns. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, everyone. This is a podcast that gives a voice to survivors of toxic relationships. I am Brandon Chadwick, but my friends call me Chad, and thanks for tuning in to this episode. So what is a narcissist, you may ask? Well, for the purposes of this podcast, we refer to a narcissist as anyone who has displayed a pattern of behavior that shows a limited capacity to appreciate others' perspectives. It is that simple. And now, for all of you who have not been to our website recently, please do go there. If you want to be part of our show, go to our website at narcissistapocalypse.com, fill out the guest form, and we will go from there. But another way to be on our show is to be part of our Letters to My Narcissist compilation episode. And you can also go to narcissistapocalypse.com. Go with it and find this button on the side of the page. It says send voicemail. It records up to 5 minutes. Press it twice, records up to 10. We are accumulating these letters for a volume 6 of that episode. So please do send in those voicemails. But if you do not want to read the letter yourself and want me or my old pal Melissa to read the letter instead, just send an email to narcissistapocalypse@gmail.com and put Letters to My Narcissist in the subject line. And what else? We have a Patreon, everyone. So if you want to support our show, come and join our Patreon. We have episodes that never made it to air. We have follow-up guest episodes. We have random episodes of me and Melissa just chit-chatting about narcissist-related topics. We also have virtual support groups and our own private forum board that is away from Facebook. So if you want to join our Patreon, you can go to patreon.com/narcissistapocalypse. Doing so, joining our Patreons helps support the show, and I'm thanking you in advance for doing so. And last thing about this show with Ripley, there are some sound issues at the beginning. There was a clicking earring on a phone, but that's only for about the first 5 minutes. Then you'll be okay after. And I quieted out a lot of the places where people live, the main place people lived. So that is not there. So there's no identifiers of that. This episode has a lot to do with celebrity. And as well, with this episode, there is a lot of graphic language that is used. This episode also discusses physical abuse. And the graphic language happens throughout, where Ripley is, retelling stories of what her ex was saying. And some people have asked for me to keep these things in. So as an experiment, we're going to keep these things in without, hopefully it doesn't trigger anyone. We'll see how many emails I get after. So we'll see if we go back to the old way of doing things. And now, without further ado, thank you for listening to everything. And here is my episode with Ripley. Welcome to Narcissist Apocalypse, everyone. With me today, I have Ripley. How are you?
Hi, I'm good. How are you doing? Thanks for having me.
Oh, you're welcome. Thank you for being here. And you and I are talking from, two different parts of the world. You're a ways away. And I just want to thank you for being here. I know you're a single mom, so it's not easy to get the time to be here. And so just thank you for being here and having our schedules work out. And, you went through a lot, and you have a lot to tell in your story. You were brave going through it, you were strong going through it, and you were brave and strong leaving. And I just want everyone to know that they're about to hear, a story today, and not just a story. I mean, you had to flee. So thank you for being here. Thank you for being you. And without further ado, Patricia, the floor is now yours.
Thank you so much. And, it's crazy because when I hear you say that, I was brave and I was strong, it's something that I still don't really grasp. I just feel like, it's been such a journey for me. And, even thinking about it, and when people ask me what really happened, it's so hard for me to put words on it because I still don't really understand fully. But after I've left, I've done a lot of research. I've heard a lot of stories from other people. I've connected with other people who's gone through the same thing as me. And I started to realize that there's a genuine problem here with people who are narcissists, abusers. And I don't know, I call him a sociopath, right? I think I'm trying to put a definition on my abuser and the story and the things and experiences I've gone through. And I think for me, my journey started when I was 21. I was so young, and I was so I'm half Danish and half Chinese. My mom lives in, my dad and my sisters are in Denmark. I'm born in Hong Kong, and I raised in a very strict upbringing. So, school, a lot of activities, being the best in school. That was the first 10 years of my life. And then I moved to Denmark, which was a very different kind of way of living. Denmark is very free. It's very liberated. It's all about, mental health over education and studies. And moving to Denmark really opened my eyes to, how mental health is so important. And when my mom and dad got divorced when I was 12, my mom moved back to and my dad got custody of all three of us, which is me and my two sisters. So I lived and grew up with my dad. And my dad is like this super Danish guy. He's like super open. He never yells at me. He never curses. He never says bad things to us. He would never say anything that would hurt us, and he would never raise a hand against us. On the other hand, my mom, she was a little bit more stricter, and she was a little bit harsher. And it's also because of her childhood. So it kind of just passed on. And so I grew up with two very different personalities when it came to my parents. And living with my dad for 11 years, I really had a lot of issues. I was cutting myself. I was going through a lot of, I guess, like teenage years of drama. And my dad put me to see a shrink. He put me in like a school for like people who are going through hard times. And I think I just couldn't grasp the divorce, and my dad was also an alcoholic, actually. So there was a lot of issues there. So I had to grow up really fast. Now, with that said, when I was 17, I got with a guy, and then I was with him for 3 years, but I was mentally not stable. And then we broke up, and then I managed to kind of take 1 year to gather my mental health and become better and feel happier. And I felt like it was up to me. It was because when you're in a relationship, sometimes you can rely on the other person to make you feel better. And I made sure that this year I took to heal myself without relying on someone else, and that it was all on me. It was all my issues, my problems. So doing this, I was working with a handicapped boy. I took time to save up. I flew to Australia. And then I thought, you know what? Let me take a trip to visit my mom, make some time for her. So I did that. And then I met him when I was, for this visit, I was supposed to go back to Denmark to study. I was out with my friends, and, I was actually just, backpacking, I would say, just like on holiday. I met some guy. He told me, one of my friends said, oh, they want weed or greens. I don't know. Am I allowed to say these words?
Yeah, sure.
Yeah. So they wanted weed. And then this guy that's like just randomly, I was just seeing for 2 days, I just met him at some bar. He was like, oh, I have a contact of a friend. He's English, British, right? So I heard that I should just call him if I need anything. So I was like, okay. And we went to the office where he was, and there was a bunch of people there. He was sitting at his desk. It was his office. And I remember walking in, and I remember he really stood out. Like, he was charming. He was good looking. He was charismatic. He was very flirty. He was flirting with me, even though he knew that guy was kind of seeing me. And I remember a little moment where he was in the room with me when I was looking at all his equipment, because he does music. And I could see he was trying to connect with me. And then that guy I was seeing walked in, and it became uncomfortable. But I was just I don't know, I was already drawn to him at that point. And I was thinking about who this guy was. And, I just couldn't get him out of my head when I left. And I really, really kept thinking to myself, I need to see him again. He seems so special. And he turns out to be 7 years older. He turns out to be a celebrity. So he's someone that's known. He was a DJ. He was a host. He was a TV host. For me, it was a little bit taunting because I was 21 and I didn't know anyone. And I started to go out a bit and I started to kind of like ask around. I'm 21. I'm just a bit immature. I'm like, hey, do you know this guy? Do you know this guy? I'll just call him Peter. Do you know Peter? I just met him the other day. And everyone's like, yeah, of course we know him. He's a great guy. He's super nice. And I started to get more intrigued and I want to see him again. So I actually met another friend who said, hey, I actually live with him. So I felt like, oh my God, this is destiny. I'm supposed to meet him and I can't wait to see him again. So he gets me in contact with him and he invites me out for a beer. So we go out and we have this beer. And I remember the first date was really awkward because I was so shy and he was so outgoing and he was just so charming. I was completely infatuated. And I remember being so nervous because he had this vibe about him where I felt like there's something so special about him that I haven't seen in anyone. And he had all these stories and he started telling me these stories from the get-go. So on the first date, he was already sharing with me that he had been married, that his marriage he hadn't ended it completely yet. And he was kind of just like giving this sad story to me. And I felt so sorry for him. Like he already caught me at this level where I felt so much empathy towards him. He was telling me that she had cheated on him with these like elder men. All she wanted was money and he had just provided for her for so many years and she didn't care. And one day, apparently, she had just taken her stuff and left. And now when you hear this kind of story, you just go, wow, that's so sad for you. I feel so bad for you. You seem like such a nice guy. And how could she do this? So from that point, I already started off going into this relationship feeling sorry for him. I felt like, he needs my help. And that's the problem, right? Like every time they draw you in, I feel when I hear other people's story, it's like this, you want to save them. It's like they are already playing victim from the get-go. So I already felt like, oh my God, I need to be there. Maybe I can make a difference. Maybe I'm the one that can come and save him from all this sadness that he's going through. And that's also an issue I feel like a lot of people have, is that they feel like there's something to heal in people. But I've already understood now with time that you can only heal yourself and no one else can help you. So it was already wrong, the whole feeling of why I started dating him. But at the same time, he was also just good looking and charming. So of course I thought, this is just a score for me, and everyone knows him. So of course he seems like he's legit, right? So I go, let's just go forward because it's like 10 years of relationship, right? So forward, when did it start?
So I just want to point out for everyone right here, as far as love bombing, trust building and everything, you are hooked pretty much right here. And the reasons that you are hooked are, first off, in a way, he is vouched for. Everyone knows who he is. He's a celebrity. You hear nothing bad about him. So you have, in your mind, what can be wrong with this guy? He's a catch. He's charismatic. He's good looking. That draws you in as well. And then him being the victim puts seals the deal for you right there. And at that point, you have no reason to believe that there is anything wrong with him, that any sort of abuse can happen, and you're diving in head first at this point. And, your infatuation with him is, doesn't take center stage here, but your infatuation with him already right at the beginning isn't going to help here, and hook, line, and sinker, you're in.
Of course.
Yeah.
I was straight away in. I was just completely, it was kind of like already then I knew I already felt like he's the one.
And did you know if you beforehand, if you had, you went to therapy when you were younger, what kind of things were you dealing with as far as, did you have self-esteem issues? Were you a people pleaser going in but weren't able to recognize it?
I was super insecure. I'm still quite insecure as a person, It obviously didn't help that I met him and went through everything I did, but I am a very insecure person, and I think it contributes to my upbringing, like the divorce and my mom, the way she would sometimes speak to us. And I think it didn't help meeting someone like him, because of course all I wanted to do was help, and I have so much empathy for people. And I think that's also the thing, once you have so much empathy, you kind of just don't see the signs or around it. You just see, oh my God, there's this person hurting. You want to help them because you know how much pain it can be, to be hurt and alone. So I think I was very vulnerable already and accessible for him. I was an easy target for him.
And would you say that you put your worth in helping other people to gain worth, to feel less insecure?
Oh, for sure.
Okay.
For sure. I do that a lot. I always put other people before myself.
Do you have a need to be liked?
Yes.
Okay.
Not anymore.
Mm-hmm.
That I think has slowly gone away with age and experience. But definitely when I was 21, yes, I was very concerned and aware of what people would think of me and say about me and how they looked at me.
And my last question before we continue is, do you feel that you had any sort of abandonment issues kind of going in, or an anxious attachment style?
Yeah, no, I of course I did. I think when I was so young and my mom, we only saw her once a year. I think when she left, I remember waking up one night and she had packed her bags and was like on the way out of the door. And I remember running out to her as a child, and I was like, "Where are you going?" And she was like, "Oh, I'm leaving." And I was like, "Where are you going?" And she's like, "Oh, I'm just going to go. I'll be back again." And then she came back, like maybe, I don't know how long it took before she came back. And that was for a divorce. So, I mean, of course it was some hard times. And I think it all stems from, I always believe there's a foundation. And I think that me going through all this with my parents, and I heard his story because I know that his dad left when he was like 1. And I know that he told me all these stories. So I felt like I related to him. I thought, oh my God, that's exactly how I feel. So I thought that maybe we could bond in that way because he understood it. But I just really realized that, people make decisions on how they treat other people and how they use their stories of pain to improve themselves as human beings and not harm other people when they know how much pain that is. And that's what I realized, and that later on, that there was such a big difference between me and him, is that I would never hurt anyone because I know how much pain that can come from all this and insecurities. But he, on the other hand, would use that pain and then use his stories as an excuse for everything that he did to harm me and my family.
And for everyone listening, not everyone comes into these situations with issues that, some people are in these situations, and these issues arise because the abuser makes them crazy and starts creating insecurity. So, it's not, you don't, just to, for everyone who's saying like, oh, well, that didn't happen to me. There's a mixture of these types of things. So now,
of course.
Yeah. So now you are hook, line, and sinker, and, the devaluation then begins.
I actually do want to add on to what you just said. I actually have a lot of friends who are strong people who never had family issues or bad childhoods or, problems. And they themselves got into these kind of relationships. And it was just so happened that maybe I was just a little bit more accessible, maybe because I was open and felt like I was understanding to him. So I wanted to help as well. And maybe we could help each other. So I know tons of people who as well didn't have any insecurities, and it only arose later on after they broke down their self-esteem. So 100%, I agree with this a lot. For me, it continued with, let's just say, a lot of people who don't know the story. All my friends who actually never had a clue. Maybe they thought about it, but they just didn't go in. They just didn't really go further asking me questions, I guess, because they felt like that's my privacy and they don't want to get involved. And I guess most people say there's two sides to the story. So, most people don't get involved in people's relationships because that's not their place, right? So for me, I get this question, when did it start? Because they hear 10 years and they go, oh, so was it 5 years after? And then he started? Was it when you moved in together? And for me, it started already, in the start already, but literally the abuse started the same week. And the abuse started with him, for example, deciding when we would meet up. So he would call me at 2 a.m. in the morning or write to me suddenly, I miss you. And then he would come pick me up, bring me to his house, and we would talk. And I remember the first time when he tried to hit on me. And again, like when I talk about this out loud, I never thought about it. The situation he put me in, because he was 7 years older than me. So he's 28 and I'm 21. And we're sitting in the couch and I clearly remember it, bright as day, because I remember how much it affected me. We were watching this ant show. And he looks at me and he goes, you're so beautiful. And I get super, shy. And I'm just like, thank you. And he leans over and says, I'm going to kiss you now. So we kiss a bit. And I'm super shy because I'm insecure and I'm nervous. I've only had sex with one person in my life, which was my boyfriend from 17 till 20, like in a proper relationship. And then I push him away. And then he goes, oh, I feel like I'm some teenage boy right now, very condescending. And I'm just like, what do you mean? He's like, oh, because, well, I'm a 28-year-old guy and you're pushing me away. Like, why are you doing that? And I remember thinking, I felt uncomfortable. I felt like, am I supposed to give you sex right now? I'm not ready. And I remember feeling like pressured that I'm supposed to do this with him, or I was a bad person because I had led him on or something. And he got all awkward and I got all awkward. And then he was like, you know what? Do you want me to bring you home? He just, he was good at hiding it, yet he was also not that great when I think about it now. And he sent me home in this car and he was just weird and he was standoffish. He didn't talk to me the whole way. And I got out of the car, went back home, and I just remember sitting in the house thinking, what just happened? Like, why do I feel guilty about not giving him sex, on our first time at his house? And it took me a couple of days and he didn't write to me. He didn't say anything. And then suddenly out of the blue again, I get a message, I miss you, or how are you? And then I'm drawn right back in. And I'm just like, it's like this chase. And I'm like, how are you? And then suddenly I got like drunk one night and I'm just like, I'm coming to your office. And I go into his office and I just go straight for him because I felt like this is what he wants. So I'm just going to do it for him. And, I go straight for it and he allows it. And I literally have sex with him because I felt so guilty about how I had, I guess, treated him the first time we were together and that I had let him down. So that was and I remember this clear as day because it affected me so much in that sense where I felt like he was already controlling there. And then there on it continued. Like he just only called me in the middle of the night. I would leave in the morning with my bag. We would just have those moments. And the only times I felt close to him was when I gave him sex. And then other times we'd just be like, okay, not really talk to me. I kind of saw messages from his ex-wife, but he lied about them. Again, these are stories that I'm telling you because now I know. I had no clue back then. I was completely oblivious. And one time, this is the first time he's violent, he was hiding me. I think he was still talking to his ex-wife. I knew he was still talking to his ex-wife. But he kept convincing me that there's nothing. He had left her, divorced her. He wants to be with me, which came out in small little messages here and there. I go with him to a bar. He brings me finally out in public. And I feel so excited, right? I'm over. I feel like I'm privileged to go with him. You know, he's finally chosen me to go with him. And I go with him to this bar and he's DJing. I'm just sitting there waiting for him, right? I go upstairs because there's a friend of his that has his girlfriend there too. So I sit with her. We go upstairs. There's a bachelor happening. All these guys, they come over because it's a bachelor. They're drinking and they're like giving him tasks to do. So they come to us and say, hey, can you give my friend a hug? You know, like, because we're just like, oh, our boyfriends are down there. No worries. Okay, just give him a hug. So we do. And then we turn around. And then suddenly I look down at the decks and he's gone. And I'm just like, oh, where did he go? I get up. I go to the entrance to go down the stairs, down to where he is. And he is literally running, speeding up the stairs. And he comes straight up to me and he grabs me and he goes, you fucking slut. And I go, what's happening? And he goes, you are a fucking slut. What the fuck is wrong with you? I bring you out and this is how you fucking treat me. And he was cursing and he was saying all these words. And I was shocked because I've grown up with my dad who has never said these horrible words. Like, who calls someone a slut and a whore? Like, and I was like baffled. I was just standing there thinking, what have I done? And I tried to explain myself. He would not let me talk. He drags me down the stairs, right? He drags me and I'm completely in shock. So I don't even know how to react. I'm just trying to explain, listen, it was just a bachelor. He's just like, you're just like standing there, like flirting with these guys. And he drags me down and I start to then panic. So I start to try walk away from him and he won't. He holds on to me. He gets so upset that he flings me over his shoulder in the middle of the bar in front of everyone. He flings me over his shoulder. He walks through the bar to the elevator. He brings me down the elevator. I start panicking. I'm crying at this point, right? I'm just like, what the fuck is wrong with you? Like, get away from me. Don't touch me. And I run and he runs after me. And I remember running. I didn't know where to run. So I just ran into the hotel toilet. It was a hotel bar. I run into the toilet. He runs after me and bangs the door before I can lock it. He drags me out. He drags me into his car. He throws me literally into the car. And we drive back. And this whole drive, he's just screaming at me. And I actually don't even remember because I think I was in such shock that I was just crying and I was just lost and I had no idea how to react to this action of something I hadn't even done. And we got to the house. He brings me upstairs and then he just takes my handbag. He smashes it down on the floor. All my things break, everything in my bag, my phone, my had like an iPod, like all my makeup in it, everything breaks, right? And he's just going on and on for hours. Like I remember it was like 4 a.m. when he stopped. We had been done around 1 or something, and he just keeps going on and on. And finally, when he stopped, I just remember this moment when I was just so exhausted, and he just starts crying, like out of nowhere. And then he starts to say sorry. And I'm just sitting there again thinking, what the hell is happening? Like, I don't even know how to respond to this. Like, I was completely shocked. And he starts to try to hug me. And I'm just like, oh my God, he's touching me. Like, I don't like this. But somehow I give in to him because he is so convincing that he is so sorry. He was just like, I'm so sorry. I'm just so insecure. And then he starts using his past. He starts to say, my ex-wife cheated on me. I'm just so scared you're going to do the same. I don't want you to because you're so beautiful and I know people want you, like just using all these words. And I end up going, I would never do that to you. So why do you think I would? So, he reverses it and suddenly he's the victim.
So I just want to point out for everyone, from the beginning of the devaluation that has occurred so far, you felt pressured when it came to sex. You felt guilty. He kind of silent trips you kind of right off the bat. And, then when you do have sex with him, in a way, it's like you're caretaking his needs over your emotional needs. And he's also hiding you at the beginning, and he's getting away with hiding you because you are already hooked at that point. So in a way, in testing that boundary, he knows that you are going to put up with that, so then as things go forward and now he brings you out in public, you really do feel like you have been chosen. So everything that happened before, you're going to sweep under the rug because now all of a sudden you are being brought out. So you feel really good about yourself. So there's like that positive, reinforcement right there. And now in this situation, he has abused you in public. He has verbally abused you and is giving you the runaround on talk. And then at the end of everything, he reverses the situation by crying and playing the victim, which puts you back on your back foot and caretaking him. And all of a sudden, everything that's happened is now, the cycle is going to eventually begin again.
Exactly. And I think that this moment I just spoke about, this was where there was, it had happened, it was done. Like I had seen it. It's now just going to be normal. It's just going to be this normal thing he does. I'm still shocked, obviously, the first 20 times, which is really awful when I say it because, I don't understand myself back then, obviously, why I didn't leave. But I guess, as you said, I was already in it and there was no turning back for me because I felt like, he could change. And he also kept saying that to me, that it wasn't him. So I kept believing his words. I thought to myself, there is something wrong with me then. He was so good at making it feel like I was the problem. And I brought this out in him. But if I didn't do these things, he wouldn't act like this. And I think that's also the problem that a lot of people forget, is that when you feel like, when you start to get into a relationship like this, or when people start saying it's you start to feel like you're crazy, like, oh my God, maybe it is me, and you start to evaluate your own actions that, like I would say normal people would, what did I do to contribute to this argument or fight? Like maybe in that sense that I caused this, that made him act like this, and that's the insecurity. It just becomes lower and lower. And therefore, there's less and less chance for you to really understand the situation because he just keeps riding on that insecurity. He keeps knowing that this is the moment for him to pounce on it because he knows that I'm not going to give it. I'm not going to be like, it's you. I'm going to say, okay, then it's me, And
for everyone, if you're rebuilding your boundaries after your relationship, one of the lessons right here, as far as your boundaries and your values, I think a big value to have is, actions matching words. And here you have a guy whose actions are not matching words at all. So when you are building boundaries for the future, or your value system for the future, I think that's a big one to have. So just to pay attention to that.
Extremely important. I have really learned that the past 3 years. It's insane how much I put value on action now compared to before. I always thought that words the things he said, I believed it. And then he did something and he would say something and I would still go back to, oh, but he said this, so it must be something he's going to do or he will do at some point. And I kept, I guess I was, what would you call that? You give them space to grow and change, right? Because you want that change. It's like you see them at their best, and he does, they do this thing where they give you suddenly all this love and affection and happiness, and then they just take it away. And then you're just left standing there thinking, how do I get that person back? So it continues the relationship, and there's so many incidents like this. I mean, I couldn't speak to a single person. I couldn't even look at someone. I couldn't even walk into a place and look at someone. And mind you, at this point, I was a nobody. I was just, Peter's girlfriend, living with him, or like half and half living, 1.5 years later in of me and him, like going back and forth. I did try to leave him. Yeah, I did try to, but he always managed to reel me in because I was in love with him. And 1.5 years in, he says, hey, let's move in together. And then I remember saying to myself, oh, it didn't feel right. But at the same time, I was just like, no, he's a good guy. And I convinced myself that everything he says when he's sad and saying sorry, that's him. And it's going to change because when I live with him, he's going to trust me more. He's going to know I'm there with him. I'm going to support him even more. I'm going to be there and be a better person and girlfriend for him so that he can get better, right? It was all about his needs. I completely set aside my own needs. Everything that I felt in my gut feeling, my instinct, I completely went against because it was just all about him. And I move in with him, and, it's happy times. Let's just talk about the happy times to the sad times. There were a lot of happy times. I mean, not to say that it was all sad. People would see these happy times. People would see us in love, and I would take photos and send and post on my Facebook. People would see us in these happy times, and those are the times that I would only share. So, of course, there was already me building up this illusion that it was a good relationship, because the other side, I would just be like, you know what, that's our privacy. No one needs to know about that, and he's going to get better anyways. So I start to work in the industry. I start to DJ. I'm one of the first female DJs that start to really get out there, because I start to also host. I was hosting for ESPN, and then I became a radio DJ on one of the biggest stations that just opened. It's funny because it was an all-female, empowerment station. Imagine that. And I have my own show from Monday to Friday. I start to do a lot of hosting gigs for lots of big clients, Levi's and DJing for Dior, all these big brands. I was starting to get hired by all these people because I was a newcomer. And I was on TV, I was on radio, so it was just a bonus when they hired me for all these events because people started to know who I was. Now, during this period of time when I start to get a bit bigger, my name starts to get more known, he starts to he obviously continuously is this insecure person that wants to control me. And therefore, everything and everyone and anything around me, he would try to control. So when I got a job, he would want to come. He would want to know who hired me. He would want to be the one saying to me, I got you that job. You're the only reason that you're doing this is because of me. He would keep reminding me and brainwashing me to believe that I'm no one and I'm only someone because of him. And that was so tiring for me because I worked so hard for what I did. And I kept feeling like I owed him all my hard work that I did. I was no one if it wasn't for him. And that control is insanely hard to get rid of because the guilt that comes with it is extremely tiring. You always feel like you owe them your happiness or your success. And they managed to do it. He managed to do it so well because I really believed that I was no one without him, because he was this guy that everyone knew, and therefore they knew who I was. So it continued. It went on, and I was in the. I lost so many friends. I lost so many clients. There were times where we went for events and we were both hired together to host together, and he would actually make a scene in front of everyone. He didn't care who was there. He didn't care who was in front of us. That was the scary part too. He did not care if it was in public when he did something. And what I found scary, and what I find scary now is that not many people stood up for me or jumped in to help me. I think I don't understand this, because if I had seen this happen to someone, I would I don't know if it's because I know and I've gone through it, and I would just help someone going through it, and maybe that's it. But I don't know. Like, I don't understand how people can observe this and not do anything. And he would drag me in front of them through the club, through the event. He beat me up in a hotel room, and the guards, they had to call security because they could hear me in the room with him. And he threw an iron against the window in the hotel room, which cracked this big hotel room. And the guards came, and I ran out, and I had nearly barely any clothes on. I had no shoes, and still no one spoke about it. That, I think, contributed to the fact that I was able to just stay with him for so long, because no one told me or helped me, other than a few of my friends who then ended up actually leaving my side because they just couldn't deal with the drama. This back and forth, like me calling up crying, I need to leave, pick me up. I go back to him 2 days after. Who can deal with that? Who can deal with a friend who does that? I mean, I get it. Like, I think a perspective as well is for people who are friends or family with victims going through abuse. How do you actually deal with this situation? Do you jump in and help them? Do you just stand by and see what's happening? Like, what do? Do you distance yourself from the problem and wait for them? That's something that even to this day I've been asking people. And I think the answer to all of this was that you can't help someone that doesn't want to be helped yet. You can only wait for them to finally realize, and then you step in and help them. And then you're there all the way and you help this person, because I don't think I wasn't ready to leave yet. And therefore no one could help me. I was alone in this, and that it would be all up to me how to get away from this guy. No one could get me away from him other than myself.
Some people think tough love is the way to go, and to abandon the friend until they do the right thing. But the right thing to do is to make sure the line of communication is always open, that your friend trusts you.
Of course.
Your friend trusts you, so when something does happen, that they know that they can come to you. The worst thing you can do as a friend or a family member is to isolate them and be like, I told you so, or you're wrong, or anything. You're supposed to, be supportive of whatever decision is made, so they at least know that when something does happen, that they're not isolated in the way where I can't go back now because they'll tell me there's shame attached to it. So you have to support without having the other person feel shame.
Definitely. And the only friends that I guess I'm still friends with till this day are the one that said, I'm here if you need me. I hadn't explained to them as much as I thought I had what was happening in the relationship. And that's because that during the fights and whenever we got into arguments, he managed to convince me that our problems were private. But ironically, he would just do all this in public. It was just weird. And I, as a person, I always made sure to defend him and to make sure that our relationship was protected. I would go out and talk highly about him. I would always say, if someone said something bad, I would say, no, he's gone through a lot and he's had this messed up childhood. And, of course, you just have to have some empathy for him and have some sympathy. I would always defend him, which is what's the scary part too, because I think I realized a lot of friends would just sit there looking at me thinking, well, is it you then? And I would think, I don't know, is it me? I don't know. It was just starting to come to this point where, again, you're just self-doubting yourself. Is it me that's the problem here? Is it my fault? And am I the person that's making him do what he does? Which doesn't help with feeling like you want to leave the person, because you keep thinking, maybe I need to fix myself and then it will change. So the incidents kept happening. And I remember one specifically, 1.5 years in, when we just moved in together. I was out for dinner with some girlfriends. I come back home. He makes up some story that, oh, what guy did you go see? And I'm just like, I just went out with some friends. I didn't go see any guy. I don't understand what you're talking about. And he just makes this story up, as he usually does. And he flips out and says, I'm leaving. And he walks out the door. And I'm just sitting there and I'm thinking, again, like, what did I do wrong? And he comes back the next morning and he walks in the door and he goes straight to take a shower. And I promise I don't check his phone. Like, I have this thing where I feel like when you're in a relationship, you should trust each other. So checking each other's phones doesn't make sense. But at this point, I had this gut feeling, which I feel like you should listen to. And I checked his phone when he went downstairs and I saw all these messages to his ex-wife. And it was literally just like, I'm coming to see you. I'm driving to you now. And she's like, what about your girlfriend? Fuck her. I miss you. I love you. It's just awful. And there was way more. But I remember I just looked at it and he came up the stairs and I just gave the phone to him and I said, I'm done. I don't want to do this anymore with you. I'm done with this. I can't live with you like this. And I walk up and I start packing my stuff. And he runs after me and he goes, baby, I love you. I love you. Please don't leave me. I need you. I need you, And I'm just like, no, I can't do this. Like, how can I be with someone who I don't understand why you're using the fact that you're making me feel like I've done something so you can do something and I've not done anything. And he continues to keep going. And at this point, my brain, like, I'm just like, no, I need to do this for myself. And he realizes, and I can see the switch in his eyes. He realizes it's not working. So he goes to who he is. He just flips. He just looks at me. He goes, yeah, well, you want to be that kind of bitch? Yeah, you want to fucking leave me? Watch if you can fucking leave me. And I start to get scared. And I'm starting to learn his trigger points, but I'm trying to stay strong to who I am. And I keep saying, no, I need to get out of here. And I'm scared. Yeah, I'm so scared, but I try to seem like I'm not. I'm trying to show, I guess I'm trying to be confident about my decision to him, even though I'm completely terrified. And my girlfriend comes, I call my girlfriend and she's going to come pick me up. He goes, yeah, your girlfriend's coming? Watch what I do to your girlfriend. So he starts, and this is also repetitive with him, he threatens me. He completely, always threatens me with something that he knows I'm vulnerable about. My friends, my career, my family. He knows my weak points because I've been so open to him. And he takes a hammer and he says, watch what I do. And he runs down the stairs. And I don't know what's happening. I'm packing at this point. I'm trying to pack faster. I just want to get out of there. And suddenly my girlfriend calls me and she goes, she's crying. And I'm like, what's happened? She's like, he just smashed my car with a hammer, like the front shield, the 2 side windows, whilst I was in it, and the 2 front lights of my car. And I'm like traumatized. Like, I'm shocked. Like, please come down here. And he comes running up with a hammer. And the first thing he says is, look what you made me do. And I go, what do you mean I made you do this? What's wrong? Yeah, you shouldn't have called your girlfriend. And there, again, it's this isolation thing, like it's the start of me not feeling like I can call anyone because I don't want people to get hurt, or I don't want people to come in my drama and get, and I don't want him to hurt them. I was just so scared at that point. That was the first point where I had to stop calling people, because the fact he could go that far, he smashed her car with a freaking hammer, who does that? And my girlfriend calls the cops. My mom comes, his stepmother comes. He runs off. He goes, I need to hide. And he runs off. I'm in shock at this point. I don't know what to do. I walk down outside. I'm sitting on the staircase. I'm completely shocked. And I'm just sitting there. And I remember it just like passing by in front of what was happening. The cops, my mom, they're all talking. A car rolls up. Her brother comes with 6 friends and golf clubs. They walk up to me. They go, where is he? And I'm just, I don't know. I don't know where he is. And they're just yelling at me. And I'm just like, I really don't know what happened. I was upstairs. I was just trying to leave. I couldn't even talk about what happened. It would just became all about him again. And then there was a water tower. And then he's whistling. And I find out he's up in that water tower. And I protect him. I don't say anything to anyone. Imagine that. I don't say anything to anyone knowing he's up there. And we go to the police station, and my girlfriend says, please make this police report. And I didn't, because I said, I wasn't there. I didn't know. I don't know what happened. And till this day, how could I have done that? Like, I was so deep in with him. I can't believe, I don't know. It's things I'm not proud of myself that happened, that I also did to defend him to other people. But that's just how much I loved him. And my mom says, please come home with me. I say, no, I want to go back to the house. We have our dog. I use that as an excuse. But remember, it's 1.5 years. So I know his side, and I know that he's going to go back to that soft side again. I just need to talk to him. So I go back, and he's there. And of course, first thing he does is he comes up to me. He's crying. He's on his knees crying. And he is good. He is so good at this sobbing and victim. And I cannot describe to any of you how awful it is to see someone in so much pain, apparently. It's just you feel suddenly like you're again supposed to help them. Even though, imagine all the things he did, and still I'm just like, oh my God, he needs help. And I end up all of us helping him, because she goes to the police saying attempted murder, and they try to come after him, and we defend him. My mom, I got everyone convinced to help him. He twisted the story. He managed to make the story that she tried to run him down, and therefore he defended himself. And we all believed him, because that's how good he was at making himself the victim. And it's insane thinking about it now, because now my eyes have opened. Like I don't have this blindfold anymore.
So as the relationship continued to get worse, were there any big changes that happened along the way? And, as far as, things that eventually maybe getting unbearable, and if you ever got to that point, when did things or you start to really figure out, like, how do I get out of this?
I started to plan. I started to think of my escape. I started to think, what can I do to escape? And I think the first thing was I started to find, I guess, like, there were some guys that would write me, and I started to open up a bit, and I started to kind of want the attention given by other men, and started to realize that this is not what I want. I wasn't in love with him anymore. I think I was just in love with the idea of who he could be and who he was. And my brain was telling me all this, but then again, he would come in the room, and then he would be this, he just always knew when I was in this state, and he always knew when to switch on the nice person. It was insane. Like, he was so calculated. I remember whenever I felt like I wanted to leave or was down, it was like he read me, and he knew. And therefore he would know when to start being that person that I know, that he knows that I love and that I'm in love with, right? So he would always reel me back in some way. And then I would be like, oh, maybe, again, I would just be like, okay, I'm going to give him one more chance. And it happened again. And then the honeymoon phase. And the honeymoon phase was always amazing. It was just like these 2-3 days of peace sometimes, And the thing is that it was actually longer, but then it just became shorter and shorter and shorter as the years went by, because I started to become less and less patient as well. And I'm a strong person. I have a very strong personality. And I am not scared of speaking my opinion normally. I'm insecure, but I am also opinionated, and I know, and I stand my ground on a lot of things. So I remember the first time 4 years in when I finally hit back at him. And I remember it clearly because he was kicking me and he slapped me and punched me. And I remember I turned around and I punched him straight in the face. And this is 4 years in before I actually defended myself. Because every other time I was just crying and begging him and pleading him to leave me alone. It's like, please let me out of the house. Please don't do this to me, you know? And I remember that moment when I punched him in the face and how shocked he looked. And that didn't help. He obviously became more violent. And then because that happened, that breaking point there, it started to become violent between the both of us. Because I started to defend myself. I wouldn't say I wasn't punching him back all the time. I was just fighting back. You know, I was actually trying to fight back now. And I didn't care if he then went for me even more. I just knew that feeling of liberation, of finally standing up for myself after all these years of just feeling like nothing. I just felt some kind of like this feeling in me that I shouldn't let this happen to me. I need to defend myself. I need to do something. I don't care if he batters me up. I'm gonna start going at him myself and telling him, don't touch me, don't come near me. And obviously nothing worked, but everything became doubled worse, right? Because he started to see that I became maybe a bit more aware and a little bit stronger in my personality and in my feelings towards what he was doing. And I was starting to wake up a bit. I think he could see that I was starting to understand that this wasn't right. And a time came where my girlfriend came, and then he couldn't find the keys. He thought I hid them. And then we locked ourselves in the room and locked the door. And then he threw knives against the door. And my girlfriend was so scared. She was from Australia. She'd come to visit me, and she was crying in the room. And I opened the door, and then he came in, and then he had cut himself. So he sprayed blood in my face in front of her. And my mom and my stepfather came to help, took my girlfriend out of the apartment. She had to sleep at their house. I go back to him again. I talk to him. She calls me up. She says, I need my stuff. Where are you? I'm at the house with him. She just starts bawling and can't talk to me because she is so traumatized from that one time, seeing the way he is. And that's when I actually realized how crazy and what level I'm at, that I'm not even fazed by what he's doing because it's normalized to me. That to hear my girlfriend break down crying that she can't even talk to me because she heard his name. You know, that to me, those little things started to wake my brain up a bit, because it was just so normal that he just did this and then we would just make up again. But hearing her cry and hearing her say, I'm never coming back there again. What are you doing? Get the fuck out of that house. And that's when it really started to hit me, and I started to plan, and I started to think about, what am I going to do? How do I escape this? And I was in a pickle because I was in the industry. My name was known, I had built my reputation up, my name. I was vulnerable. He knew this. He knew how much it meant to me. He kept saying to me, I'm going to ruin you. I'm going to ruin your name. You're never going to get a job here in this town again. And I remember thinking to myself, I'm not ready to lose everything I work for right now. And I knew he was going to do it because he had no filter and he was calling everyone. And I just continued because I wanted to find a point where I felt like this is the moment. This is when I leave. And it took so long to get to that point where I felt like I built enough confidence to finally leave him. And he did so much, right? I mean, I could keep going with the stories, but he was also, I remember once he planted a weed plant in our house. We're in Yeah. Drugs are illegal. He tells people, I wake up, there's 10 cops in my living room. They're arresting us. We're going to the station. I am in jail, in lockup clothes, lying on a brick floor, thinking to myself, what the fuck has happened to my life? I'm in a fucking jail right now. And again, I had no idea what to do. I was completely lost. I didn't know who to ask for help. I had no idea. I had no idea who to ask for help because I felt like every time I told my story to a close friend, they just didn't believe me anymore because I would just be back with him again, which is fair because that's exactly what happened, right? But then again, I don't know. I don't even know. Like, it was just the first 6 years was like that. And finally, I go to myself, I can't live like this. I can't live like this. I am exhausted. I'm tired. I feel worthless, and I feel like I'm never going to be able to grow and get out of this. And I'm 26 at this point. So I say to myself, you know what? I'm going to pack all my stuff. And then I thought about it. That's what his ex-wife did. And I realized that a lot of people had actually come to me and said, I've heard he's a wife beater. And I had ignored that. Not a lot, a few. And I started to think, is it really the ex-wife that was like that and left him because of the things he said? I started to doubt everyone. I didn't trust anyone. I didn't know what was up. I don't know what was real anymore. So I just thought to myself, you know what? I'm going to pack my stuff. I'm going to leave, but I have to do it when he's not home. So I pack all my stuff. I get everything ready. I'm so scared at this point. I'm going, I'm just like packing. I don't even care about my stuff. I just pack 2-3 bags. I walk out the door, and he comes home right at that second when I'm going out with my last bag. And he just looks at me, and he just takes my bag and throws it again along the hall. And then he drags me all the way down, and he's like, what, you're going to fucking leave me? Like, he's awful when he starts. He's just like, you fucking bitch. You think you're that great, that you're going to think that you can get anyone out there. And, when you're in this, you don't realize, but every time he says these words, because you get immune to it at some point, because they've said it so much, it becomes worse and worse, the things they said, because they know that it's not taking the effect that they think. So it just becomes more and more and more horrible, more nasty, harsher things he does, because, you start to become used to it, which is the sad thing, right? You get used to it. And then he drags me down. He throws me in the elevator. He pulls off my shirt. I'm in the hall, half naked, and people start coming out of the apartments. I've called my mom and my stepfather. They come and try to help me again. They're always trying to help me. Mind you, my mom's come and he's actually grabbed my mother before, and I've let this happen and in my head. But of course now it's what it is. I've put my mom in this situation as well. She comes over to try to help me once again. He runs into the elevator and strangles my stepfather and pulls him up against the wall in front of me and my mom. And then the elevator goes down. We're screaming. The elevator's open. He throws the guard against the floor, across the floor. He's just screaming. He's awful. He also does this thing where every time someone tries to help me, he is so good at, she's a slut. She's a fucking whore. She's cheating on me. What the thing she does, he manipulates, and he makes people feel like, what's the story here? And I'm just crying, trying to say it's not true, but it's just so difficult in this situation. He's telling my mom that I'm a fucking bitch and that, look at your fucking daughter, what kind of daughter have you raised? It's awful. And we managed to get out of there. I get out of there, and I'm in the car, and my mom's like, you cannot go back. This is it. We are not helping you again. We cannot get in this situation with you again. This is scary. This is next level. And I'm just like, okay, I won't. So I leave the country because I'm booked for, this started because I got a DJ gig on a festival on a ship. I get the gig. He doesn't. He gets pissed. He uses that and says, I'm a fucking fame whore, and, you know, all this stuff. I stand my ground. I said, no, it's a job. I'm going. And then I go and it's the ship. I meet a guy. I don't do anything because I felt like I was still in the relationship with him. I don't know, like, because of all these years of manipulation. I'm so confused. I leave. I come back. I go back to Denmark. I stay there in Denmark with my family for a while, hiding. I block him on everything. He managed to get through to me on Skype, and he starts again. All the nice words, all the crying, all the I love you, I miss you, you're the best person I know, you're my dream woman. All these beautiful words. He is so good at it. The poems he can write is unreal. Like, unreal. Even to a point where my friends can read it and go, man, you gotta give him a chance again. You know, like, it is so crazy how good he is at manipulating and saying beautiful words that he knows that you want to hear. But I don't go back to him for that. I go back out of fear because I know I have to go back for my job and my apartment and everything. And I know I have to go back and face him in the industry. And once again, I'm not ready to be on a smear campaign with him. I'm not ready. So I go back, and I'm out of fear. I go back to him out of just fear. Like, I felt like if I go back and I'm not with him, he's going to come for me and he's going to hurt my friends, my family. Like, what do? I just go with whatever I think is going to save other people and people around me and my reputation as well. You know, that's the way I'm thinking at this point. I'm not even thinking about my own safety at this point. I also think that I'm more safe with him because he won't do anything towards me. So I go back to him and we get an apartment. I start saying to him, because he's at the honeymoon phase back, right? He's just like pleading me. He's like, I missed you. I loved you. I love you. We're going to make this work. I'm going to change for you. And this is the point where he starts to admit to his mistakes. He starts to say, I know I'm not supposed to be this guy. He did it to my mom, to my friends. I know I'm this awful guy that does stupid things, and I'm going to change it. I'm going to change it. It's just because I've gone through so much and I'm so hurt, and I'm going to be this better person for you and all this stuff. But these are empty words at this point. It's 6 years in, and I don't care at this point, actually. I'm just fucking scared. And I told him that if we get this apartment together, please leave when I say it's over. Because he goes, if you don't want to be with me anymore after this last chance, I will leave. And I believe him. I'm like, okay. So I get back with him, and obviously it is not working. He's the same guy. He's not changing. They don't change. They don't change. This is the thing. This is what I've learned. They can say all they want, but again, we go back to the actions. They do not change because their action is exact the opposite. Everything he does, everything he's doing to me and my family, my friends, all the hurt and everything he was doing, strangling me like every second day, you know, it was not matching up to all the promises. And his promises were so big. And this promise that he would leave the house did not last, because when I finally said leave, he was like, fuck you, you leave. And I remember that was a breaking point too. I flipped. I have never in my life flipped like that. I smashed the house up. I was so trapped in my mind, in my body. I was just like, oh my God, I'm never going to get out of this. I'm completely trapped. Like, who's going to help me? Like, no one's going to be there. I'm completely fucked. And I smashed the whole house. And he really made me feel like he just drove me nuts, drove me crazy. I felt like jumping off the balcony, you know, because I couldn't believe after everything I've done to be there. And he would just not even care and listen to me. He wouldn't even like care about the promises he made, which of course I should have known didn't matter, but it was just so frustrating. You know, it was so hard to like just stand there and think, oh my God, what is it I'm doing wrong? You know, like I didn't even know what to do. And he wouldn't leave. And I couldn't call anyone anymore because I had made that choice to go back once again after telling everyone I had left. And I felt so stupid, so dumb. You know, I felt so stupid. Like, what kind of person does this? after he strangles my stepfather and hurts my mother, like who does this to their family and friends? He wouldn't leave. So I left, and he filmed me. He started to film me. He started to say to me that he's going to show people who I really am. Because I started to become crazy, he started to then use those moments when I went crazy and start to say that, watch when the world sees who you really are, which is insane because I never took photos of him or videoed him. I never did that. I don't know why, because maybe in my head I was like, I would never think in my head to use these things against someone you're supposedly in love with, right? Who thinks like that? I guess, people like him think like that. So I stayed, I left, and then I was again thinking how to get out of it. And guess what? I got pregnant. And it was crazy because he had been told, because of his smoking and all the drugs he was taking, he had been told that he had 6% chance because he had just ruined his body. Like, he was just so unhealthy. I was like, okay, 6% chance is fine. I was like, I don't even know if I want children right now. I'm not ready, especially with him, right? I was just like, no way. And a reason why he also kept saying we're going to get married and live happily ever after and all this. And I was like, gut feeling, no way, I'm never marrying him. But then I get pregnant. And then I remember seeing the test, and I went in the toilet, and I sat in the toilet and I cried for an hour. And I was just like, what am I going to do? What am I going to do? And then I told him, and he was crying out of happiness. And I was crying out of sadness. And what, how am I in this situation? How did I get this deep so far in, there's no turning back now. And he pleaded me. He fucking pleaded me. He gave me so much guilt. He said to me, how can you kill an innocent infant? He was going at it. He was just like, I've always wanted to be the dad my dad was. And, he's so good. I don't even know how to explain how good he is. He was so good. He convinced me. And he said, once I'm a dad, I'm going to change. I'm going to be this guy you always want me to be. I've always wanted to be a dad. I'm going to be amazing. That's all I wanted ever in my life, a child. And it's a miracle child. Look at it, 6% chance and you're pregnant. It's a miracle child. So I get pregnant, and I keep the baby, and he doesn't do anything to me because I'm pregnant at this point. And somehow he manages to not be triggered these 9 months. I mean, he did a few things, but not really, because I was pregnant and not drinking, not going out, isolated, just in the house, lying on the bed. Basically, I was there. Yeah, he it was like as if he knew, that's it. I have no way out. He had me there, right? Like, I'm pregnant now. And I remember this scary thing he used to say to me. He used to always say, now you and I were bound forever. And every time he said that, I felt like in my head, it just kept saying, you are making the wrong decision. But then I kept thinking again with my heart and thinking, no, he's going to be a great dad. He's going to change for the child. If not for me, for the child. Because I saw the way he was with his cousins, like with his niece and nephews, and he was just, this happy uncle. So I got pregnant and I went to London to be with his family. And his family, during this time, I only saw his family. I was only around his family, no one else. I was isolated completely. No friends, no family, just there, pregnant in London for 3-4 months. We went there when I was like 5 months pregnant, alone with him and his family. And I give birth to my child. We stay there for the first 3 months. At this time when I give birth, I start to get into depression because I end up being alone in the apartment with a baby that I've never been around children. I've never been around babies. And here I am taking care of his child. And he's out. I don't know. He was working, but he was also going to his mom's house and smoking, come back, pass out. he would come in and do the occasional diaper and sit there and whatnot. But it was this illusion that he was a good dad because he would change that one nappy or come and sit there 1 or 2 nights. But I was all alone, and I developed, obviously, it's like a depression when you're after you give birth, like very heavy depression. And he starts again already starting to threaten me, saying I'm a bad mom. I don't do it good enough. He was like, his family saw it. His mom saw it. No one did anything. Everyone was scared of him. Here I am again, and oh my God, just thinking about it. Oh my God. It makes me feel sick. But I had now this responsibility. I had a baby, and I had to take care of the baby and protect her. And I did everything I could. I was there in the house all day long. I did what I could. I was alone. My sisters were there for a while, but they went back. We finally traveled back after 3 months. I'm just in the house all day long nearly. And he's in the room smoking weed, playing music. He comes out 5 minutes, plays with her. He's an amazing dad. I start to say to myself, you know what? I deserve to go and see some people too now. But every time I did, I was a bad mom. I was a bad mom. And that was it. I was back in it. But now, he was using her as my weak point. And he knew this. That was it. There was actually nothing else. He could just use her. So again, no way out. I've dug myself even deeper. I'm completely locked in this relationship. I don't want a family. I don't want a broken up family. I don't want to leave and be, my daughter to grow up without a father. That's what I kept thinking about. What have I done? Right? I don't know. It's so hard because you know what? As a person who really loves her daughter, I just feel like sometimes I can look at her and think, I shouldn't have done this, because all the pain that came with after having her is just so much, and I'm still in it, right? It's been 3 years since I left him. I left him when she was 1.5. And it happened when I was in Bali with my family, and he flipped out in front of my dad, and he would just constantly yanking her out of my arms, running away with her. He would say in front of her, your mom's a bad mom. She doesn't love you, and I already knew. I was just, the thing about it is that I did not leave him. This is the crazy part. I did not leave him for myself. I left him for her. I think I would never have gotten out of it if it wasn't for her. So this is what I conclude now. I guess in some way, even though I didn't want to have her, I had her. And she saved me from not staying with him the rest of my life, because it wasn't about me anymore. It was about her. And I did not want her to go through and think that this is normal, that the person that loves you treats you like this. And then she would grow up thinking this is how men should be. I was so clear in my head about that. That was the scary part. I wasn't even clear about my own well-being. I was clear about she is 1.5, and if she gets older and starts to understand what's happening, she is going to be a damaged child, and she's going to grow up thinking the world of men like this, it's normal to be treated aggressively, spoken to and called a slut and a whore and all these names. And I knew that for the first time in 10 years that I had to leave him for good. That this is not this there's something wrong with him, because he couldn't even change in front of an innocent child that he is the father to. He couldn't even fucking get himself to do that. And that's when I started to realize there is something wrong with him. And that took me 10 long years to finally understand, and 1 child. And I kept saying to myself, at least I didn't marry him. And actually it helped that I didn't marry him, of course, but I have a child. I'm bound to him. It is true. He will always be the father to her. He will always be in my life now. And that is that's hard for me to realize. But then these past 3 years, this is exactly the reason why I was so scared of leaving him. Because leaving him was hard enough. Leaving him was hard enough. now leaving him and then going through what I've gone through the past 3 years. This is the pain that I think most women out there are equally as scared about. That's why so many women, go to shelters, they hide, they flee. They have no choice than to go into hiding, because they know that they might get killed, or they might, they're in danger. So that is exactly how I felt about him. Of course, when I left him with her, I tried. I tried. I knew it was coming. I know him. I know that he will be the nice guy for a while, and then that nice guy, when he finds out I have stood my ground, I'm not going back to him, I knew it was going to start there. And I was so, I don't even know how to explain it. I was fearing it every day. I knew it was coming. And I was trying to say to myself, and this is when I started reading. I started to read online. I think I remember thinking, I think someone said it to me once, the word, and I looked online and I started to read these articles about narcissists, sociopaths. I read this book called Free from a Psychopath, is it? I think I can't remember the title.
Psychopath Free.
Psychopath Free, that's the book, yeah. Someone gave me that book. And so this incident led up to when I left him. I was in Bali with my dad and my sister. My dad, I've protected my dad this whole time from knowing the truth, because he's in Denmark. I don't want him to worry. My dad is super emotional. He does not believe in any violence. He is the softest guy. He's always been super, he's like a communicator. He talks about feelings, So I've learned that from him, that's the way to talk. You don't put each other down. And he sees this in Bali, this incident of him coming in. He grabs my dad. My 60-plus-year-old dad is fighting him physically. And I'm hiding in the toilet, and he kicks down the door and nearly bangs this door into my daughter's head. And I pull her to the side, and he's standing there ripping her out of my arms. She's crying. She's like, "Mommy, mommy," and he's just ripping her. And I managed to, there's a lot going on, but long story short, I managed to go back home and pack my stuff whilst he was still in Bali, because I went back for a job mid-vacation, because I was there for 2 weeks with my dad and sister. I go back. I do it. I just go to the house. I pack down my whole house. 9 girlfriends came to help me pack down everything, put it all in storage. I mean, at this point, I'm just crying, or I'm just doing it. But I'm automatically I think I'm just on what do you call that? You're just doing it. You're just not even thinking. Mm-hmm. You're just going with it. And I'm just putting everything in storage. I'm just like, okay, when he comes, he's in Bali. He's not nearby, And when I go back to Bali, I had told the owners that the manager of the villa, I want him out. He's dangerous. I know him. He is a liar, because he was trying to convince them that I'm the fucked up person here, right? And my dad and my sister, who of course they were shit scared too. My dad was like, I was traumatized. My sister was crying. They were just so shocked. And for the first time, they saw with their own eyes that it was him, because I'd done nothing. He even went so far that when she tripped in a pool, his story became that I drowned her. I tried to drown my own child. He's still saying that story now to this day, that I tried to drown my own child in the pool. And he goes back to, I come back a bit later. I go back, as in he picks me up, and we go back, and I'm just sitting there numb in the car. I know I've moved out, and I'm just like, I need to find a window where I leave, right? So I go in the house, and then he says, I spoke to one of your friends, and you're just not a nice person, are you? And I just look at him and I go, what the fuck are you talking about? And I walk out that door. And that's the last I never looked back after that. I went and got my own apartment. I hid there, but then problem is that we had to take my daughter, and kind of he would have her, I would have her. And at this point, he is having her and I'm having her, and we were amicably taking care of her as parents should be, right? So one takes her. I take her when he's working. When I'm working, he takes her. And every time he would pick her up, he would try to kiss me, hug me, tell me he wants to bring me for a date, bring me flowers, bring me my favorite food, and at this point I am numb. I'm done. I am completely just like, I'm just scared. I'm just scared. I know that once he realizes that this is it, I know it's coming, and I'm just preparing for it, because I know in my head I need to go through this phase of where he just goes for it, and I'm ready, right? I'm just like, you know what? This is it. I'm doing this for my daughter. I'm going to take this on me. So one day he finds out I start dating a guy. I meet a guy 1 week after I left him. I know it's really early, but I was DJing. I wasn't ready. I was never thinking about, I'm going to get into a new relationship. I was really thinking, I just want to be alone. I don't want any boyfriend. I don't want to be near people. But it just turns out I met this guy and he stuck around. I kept telling him the truth. This is my life. I have a daughter. I don't think I'm in the right state right now to be with anyone. And he stuck around, and he ended up being probably the most healthy thing that ever happened to me in my life. And I don't believe in like, fate and all this stuff. I mean, but in some way I feel like there was some sense that said to me, maybe it was like some sign that was like, this is it. We're giving you a good guy. Open your eyes and see how you're supposed to be treated. Don't go back to this guy, because this guy came into my life and he was just the complete opposite. I started to see more and more clearly how I had been treated the past 10 years. I was shocked about the most normal things he did for me. Like talking nice to me, not yelling at me. And he was just like, this is just what normal people should be doing. And I was just like, wow, this is really nice. Like, are you sure? Like, this is what you mean? I was just shocked. And then when he found out that I wasn't coming back to him, that was it. It started. It was 3 months after he realized that's it. That's been my life for nearly 3 years now. He started gaslighting. He has an Instagram following. He starts to go online and he just goes for it. There's a YouTube video where he's holding our daughter and he is talking for I don't know how long, and he is smearing me, and it is awful. And I remember when someone alerted me about this video, and it was awful. And I remember my heart sank, and I thought, here we go. This is where it starts. It's not done. This is it. This is exactly why I stayed. And I was so scared of leaving him, because I knew he was going to go on this smear campaign, and we were in the public eye. It's going to be ugly. And I was like, okay, I'm going to brace myself. I had my boyfriend next to me. He was so supportive, and he kept trying to bring me back to reality. He kept saying, don't listen to it. Don't read it. Don't react to people. And I wasn't listening. I was so emotional. I started to reply on Instagram, in my stories. I started to reply. I started to try say things, but I didn't go into detail. I was just kind of trying my best to somehow save my dignity, that he was completely fucking. Yeah, he was just like, she abused me for 10 years. He put up photos of bruises on his body and said that I beat him up for 10 years. Sitting here talking to you, I don't think you have a clue of how much. I think we gathered everything for the lawyers at some point, and it is hundreds of Insta stories, hundreds of him just saying, I'm a bad mom. I drive drunk with her. I'm a cheater. I cheated on him with all these different men, which is untrue. I never slept with anyone, but he just came up with names, people that were my friends as well. And it was awful. It was awful. It was awful. And I went through the darkest 1.5 years of my life. I was so scared of leaving the house. I was so scared because people were writing hate messages to me. They were attacking me as a person. And how scary is that? That someone can post this and then people just jump on that truth, apparently. And it was so easy for people to target me. They just it was as if they were just waiting for something, and they just went for it. And he did it so well, because he is, again, this charming, he believes himself. And that's the scary part too. They somehow believe their own truth. They think that it's this thing where they actually, because I can sit here and go, does he really believe these lies he's saying? He knows it's not true. But I actually genuinely think that he managed to twist the story so much in his head, and becoming the victim, he actually believes this. And therefore becomes the victim in this whole thing. He was now the sad left dad by me, the bitch, terrible mom that took, that left the family, the family life that we wanted. And for our daughter, what kind of mother does this? And he twisted this whole, this narrative of how I was the bad guy in all of this. And I was completely helpless. I lost all my work. Clients did not want to work with me. The problem is that even though is it true? Is it not? The problem is it's there. You know, it's there. You can't take it back. Articles were picking it up. People were writing about it. People were following me and spying on me. People were taking photos of me in the airport and locations and sending to him, and he was posting it. It was so scary. And he found out who my boyfriend was. He called him at his work and told him he was going to kill him if he came near his daughter. I'm going to fucking kill you. And he found photos and emailed me. And he said, I don't care if my daughter gets hurt. I'm coming for you. And I'm coming for him, and I'm going to like fuck him up or something. He sent me emails, right? He spammed me with emails and Insta stories and WhatsApps. And I have WhatsApps where he's, fuck you, you bitch, blah, blah, blah. And then, I miss you so much. You're the best person in my life. He's admitting to, I smoked for 20 years. I'm going to change. And then next message, next day, I had bad dreams. I miss you so much. Please come back to me. Please don't do this. I have emails and WhatsApps I could have posted on Instagram, but I didn't. I tried to ignore it because I started to realize there was no arguing with a person like him. So when I started to find out slowly that there was no arguing because he was using my daughter, he would say, you're not getting our daughter today. He would just like disappear for 2-3 days. And I said, okay, you know what? If that's the case, I'm getting a lawyer. And he was like, yeah, get a lawyer, get a fucking lawyer. Come for me. It was just a threat, right? So I did. I got a lawyer. I said, you know what? I'm done. I'm getting a lawyer. I went to the lawyer. I put down everything. I gathered all the papers, all his threats, every WhatsApp, all 200 emails of him threatening me, everything. Brought it to her. I said, I want to sit down and see how we can figure out an agreement that is written, that he cannot just do this and use my daughter against me because I'm tired. I can't do this anymore. And at this point, we file it, and they try to send the papers to him, and he disappears. He disappears, and I don't know where my daughter is for a month. And then I hire a private investigator, and they locate his phone in London. 2 months at this point, and he's kidnapped her to UK. I had her passport, and he had made a passport behind my back, which I have no clue how it got done, because you're supposed to have both signatures from a parent when a child is under, I think, 16, or 8. I can't remember the age right now, but you're not supposed to be able to do this. So I don't know if he forged my signature, what he did, but he basically made a fake police report saying it was lost, the passport, which he had passed to me, and made a new passport and left the country with her. And I managed to call Interpol, a lawyer. They called the police. Interpol went and found him, and my daughter confiscated the passports. And during this time, he posts on Instagram hugging my daughter, crying, saying she's never going to forgive you for what you've done and stuff like that, because he starts to panic, thinking I'm going to go and tell everyone what he's done, because of course it's what he's done is fucked up. It's far out. He's kidnapped my child. And he starts to turn the story on social media and say to everyone that I am this fucked up mother, when he just went there to get a vaccine for her. Bullshit. It was a 2-year-old birthday, and I had no idea where she was. and they were hiding her because they were taking photos of her, and no one posted anything from his family and him on her 2-year-old birthday because they knew what they had done. It was insane, this period. I managed to get her back. They flew me to UK. I got her back. I took her back in my arms. I can't even describe the feeling when I got her. I got her back. I flew to Denmark to see my family because we were all so devastated and traumatized. And I then went back. So this is the crazy part where I started to learn about law and about how the system works. And now we're talking about different systems, right? Like different countries, different ways of handling things. When I submitted for the thing, to basically sit down with him, at this point, I had submitted for me and him to amicably sit down and make an agreement. So like 1 week. That was my plan all along. I had never thought to myself, I'm going to take her from him. I just thought to myself, okay, since he doesn't, because we had actually made a plan with my mom and his stepmom to sit down and have a conversation and do this without lawyers. But he never turned up the 2-3 times and kept canceling. Then he had kidnapped her. So he had made the story to everyone that basically I was the bad guy that had just taken the daughter from him. But I tried in the start. I tried everything. I never, when I started out everything, I never in my mind thought, all right, you know what? She's not going to see him anymore. I just thought, since it's the law, let's find a way where the law can protect me and then make sure that we are equally parents in her life, and we get this done in a I would say, what do you call that? It's like, peaceful way, and we can part. But again, I'm just like imagining things, because you can't do anything peaceful with these people. It's always going to be this thing where he's always trying to get to me. He's always trying to control me. He's always trying to feel like he's the one that has the power over me. And therefore, the only thing that was left to control me with was her. And when I then got her back, he flew back from the UK. I had gotten full custody because he hadn't turned up to court, right? He comes back. He tells the court, this is high court, the first one. He tells the court he didn't know. He didn't know. So please give him a chance. Start again. And I'm just like, I just spent so much money. I've lost all my work for 1 year. I have to, all that money just out the window because I have to start again. And they just disregard, and they let him start again to present his case because he lies. And they just think, okay, that might make sense. And he comes back, and I submit for full custody because I start to realize I'm never going to be able to have joint custody with him because he does not respect the law. He does not respect the police. He does not respect written agreements like this. I can already see it starting, and I think the last good thought I had in my head was that at least he's going to be a good father to her. But I had met other people who had these kind of incidents, and they had all told me, if he's not a good person to you or treats you right, he will never be a good father to her. And I protected him. I said, no, he's a good father to her. He loves her. And I knew deep down inside, I'm just trying my luck to constantly hold on to the thought that I hadn't made a mistake, that I hadn't been that stupid again. And we go into court. The judge denies me full custody over my child because they take into account all the bullshit he wrote about me on social media and YouTube and whatever. All the lies about what I am, what I did, they take that and give the reason to why I didn't get full custody without taking my standpoints. And we were shocked. And he posts all this online. He puts it online. He was putting custody private papers online because once that came back and it was written, he was trying to tell people, look, even the court agrees with me that this is what she is. And that was because it was just bad work, because there was one family lawyer in the whole, and she was just stacked with work. And you could just see that they had not taken my my side of the story. They just went with whatever he wrote. So the judge tells him, you file for joint custody. And then he goes and files for full custody. And no one knows this because I started to keep quiet because I knew that, for one, I am done arguing with him online. There was so much drama when in the start, I was defending myself a bit. He just kept having something to come back. I woke up with sweats. I had insomnia. I couldn't sleep. I kept looking at my phone. I knew that every time I woke up, there would be some awful message. I couldn't eat. I was just constantly thinking about the next post he would do. I was ready for these attacks constantly, every day. Something new he would post, something new he would come up with, some new story, something that he would constantly and he knew this. He knew how he was getting to me. And that's the awful part, right? Because as much as I left him, here I am again in control. And he still has the control over my mind, and he knows this because he knows me. And he doesn't file for the joint, he files for full. And he tells everyone that all he wants is just for the both of us to be parents, but he files for full because he knows that taking her away from me is going to completely ruin my life because all I want to do is protect my daughter. And I appeal. So I get lawyers cost a bomb, right? I'm just let's do this. I appeal, and they do the right thing. They told me that my first lawyer did a wrong thing because she kept saying, well, he's a father, so he's going to need visitation, blah, blah, blah. She didn't even take into account what kind of person he was. These new lawyers were like, no father or person like this should be around a child. And I didn't even realize that till later because I kept saying, no, but he's the father. I don't want her but then it just kept going. And I started to think to myself, it's true. Why do I want a person like him around her? He doesn't even fucking care, which is something I started to realize only 1.5 years later. He doesn't care about her. He's just using her to get to me. And when my lawyers that took over clarified that with me and said, do you understand that this kind of situation, you should put your foot down? And I said, you're right, I should. I am here to protect my daughter. I have to put my foot down and say, you know what? I'm fighting this and I'm protecting my daughter. And I'm making sure that she does not get kidnapped again or brainwashed or even just in the line of abuse that he's probably going to take out on her because of me. Ask her questions. What am I doing? Who am I with? He will do that. He doesn't care. I know him. So I won Court of Appeal last year. It's 3 high judges above High Court. These 3 judges overturned the High Court. It's a big thing, yeah, to overturn another judge's decision. It means that they saw that there was something wrong, and they gave all 3 unanimously me full custody. And I cried. I remember they called me, and I was just on the floor, and I was sobbing. And I was and they were like, she's yours. And I was like, oh my God. And then a week of just him, 8 a.m. till 8 p.m., just smear campaign. It's he reached out to people. He was on a rant. He was calling up friends. He was getting stories about me. He was basically completely trying to get people to hate on me and that I didn't deserve my own daughter. And that was just awful, because I'm not even doing anything. I'm just living my life. I don't bother him. I don't post anything. I didn't say anything, by the way. I kept quiet because I wanted to do that because I don't want my daughter to grow up and read all this stuff, and the thing is she is going to read all this because of things he wrote. Articles were writing about it. They were picking up everything he was saying. They were writing all these awful things about me. And, I couldn't even step out of my house and I was scared, because I was scared of all the people he had rallied against me. It was insane how many people he had managed to get on his side. He was posting up live videos talking about, he was crying in front of live videos, and people, they are all in it with him. They just think that he is the victim in all of this still. They think that I'm this awful person that took away his child from him, and only doing this to make sure she doesn't get hurt. Everything I do is for her. So, and now he's going for federal court. And imagine this. There's a gray zone in this, right? So imagine all the harassment he did, all the things he did, everything he did through the 10 years. I have learned one thing. I did not make any police reports. I did not take photos. I did not, he smashed my phone so many times, so I think he also knew that part. I did not keep photos. I did not even think that way, that one day I'm going to use these photos against him and it's going to be, I didn't know this. So, and in the meantime, he's been taking videos and photos of random things when we got into arguments and I was defending myself when he strangled me and was dragging me on the floor and kicking me and punching me. Like I told you I started to fight back. He was taking photos of himself. He was actually going, punch me, come on, punch me. Because he started to gather this. And this now has people questioning, why do I not have police reports and photos and all this on him if he did this for 10 years? Because I never in my mind thought it would get to this point. I never thought I would ever use this. I didn't think that way. But people like to judge, right? They're just quick to say, you know what? If there's no photo, if there's no evidence, it's a he, she, say story, right? Like that's what it comes down to. And then if he has videos and photos, must be true what he's saying. One day I managed to get through to a judge. I show her these things and an email that literally says, I'm coming. I don't care about my daughter's life. I'm coming and I'm going to bash his head into, something like that. And the judge actually says, this is a threat. Take this, go to the cops now, make them, have them do something. And I did. And the cops were just like, oh, okay. Yeah, okay. So they start it and they get it done. And finally, after 20 police reports, they arrest him. And this happened after June. It was last year in October. So they arrest him and he gets his phone confiscated. He's on Instagram in front of the police station videoing himself say, hey, I'm in front of the police station. Like it's a TV show for him. I'm on the police station and they just took my phone and, all happy, like talking as if it's nothing, blah, blah, blah. It's so sickening. And they managed to get him in a sense where he's now on bail. They confiscate his passport. And it's just this one email with those 3 lines where he sounds threatening. Or where he's threatening me, actually. It's not sounding. He said it straight up, right? This one email, out of everything he's done, is what he got arrested for. And that's how the gray area in this is scary, because they can do so much. And it has to be so directed at you before they actually take action. And how often do they call you and say, I'm going to kill you? And then you're recording right at that point. It's insane. It's insane. Like he got arrested and he's on bail now. And he got arrested a week later again because he was harassing my lawyers in court saying he's coming after them. They went and made a police report. He got arrested for that too. So he's on 2 trials now on bail for harassment. Now on the harassment, he was told, if you come near the victim and her family, you will go to jail. Basically it's a bail offense, right? Like you're not supposed to come near the victim. He comes to my house, in front of my mom's house filming. He comes out in my condo. He keeps harassing us. And we go, and my lawyers go to the court and nothing gets done. He goes to the court. He actually talks to the judge and is like he even charms the judge. He's like, I'm working with AIDS Foundation trying to find a vaccine and blah, 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 and the judge falls for it. Can you believe this? I'm in I don't even have the law that I can lean on. I can't even do anything. Like he is managing to twist people out there and the law and the judge, and no one is helping. We have just been in hell, right, for the past 3 years. And this is what it's come down to. So he's just gone in this thing. And federal court is coming up actually, and you tell me where this is about my daughter and about her well-being. It's a lot. It's a lot. It's very complicated. I'm sorry.
Well, you've been through a lot, and everyone who's listening today, myself included, is behind you. You're part of our community now, and we want the best for you, and we hope that the outcome here is in your favor. And if you need anything, you'll always be a friend of the show. And just thank you for coming here today and sharing your story and letting it all hang out there. You're going to help a lot of people. So from the bottom of my heart, thank you so much for being here today.
Yeah, I mean, I'm right now. I fled. I didn't flee. I went back to Denmark. I'm safe in Denmark right now. She's a Danish citizen now, just like me. We're safe here with my family, who are all supportive. And right now I'm in a space where I'm feeling secure, right? But right now he's still proceeding in federal court, trying to change the law for mothers out there, basically that mothers shouldn't get their children. I think that right now the only thing I can say is to everyone out there, to everything that you go through and whatever that's happening in your life and what relationship you're in or seeing other people being in this, just remember that you're not the crazy one here. And for me, it was really just realizing that I was the one that was the victim here and not the other way around. That was something that took me a while to understand. So thank you for listening to my whole story and even taking the time for me to tell all this. It's so much. And I know that it must have been a little bit all over the place, but it's hard, to tell such a 13 years of your life that has just been a complete trauma and tumult. And I just really hope the best for everyone out there that's going through something similar or is in something right now. And I hope they get the help that they need. Well,
thank you. And once again, we're here for you. And thank you so much for sharing today and letting it all hang out there. And for everyone else who is listening, I hope you have a good night.